Hello and welcome to 30 Days of Hoya. Today we talk about a plant that's a bit controversial, probably shouldn't be in the 30 Days of Hoya. Maybe I should have named the series 29 Days of Hoya and 1 Eriostemma. The reason I wanted to include this plant is because I see it being sold as Hoya a lot, and I wanted to talk about it. So this is Eriostemmalauterbachii or hoyalauterbachii. It's really not a Hoya. It has been moved to Eriostemma, but many people still refer to it as Hoya, and many people sell it as Hoya. There is a group of plants that are similar to Hoyas and are closely related to Hoyas, but have been moved to a genus Eriostemma. Because there are some differences, but we will not get into those in this video. Eriostemma means woolly, and I think that refers to the leaf. The leaves are very pubescent. I would say they are even hairier than Finlaysoni and some other Hoyas like that. The hairs just seem a bit longer. This is a very warmth-loving plant. It likes those temperatures that are from 20 to 35 degrees of Celsius, so from 70 to 95 degrees of Fahrenheit. And I read that the more warmth you give to this plant, the better. It's said that this plant best grows, of course, in its native habitat, but growers in Hawaii and Florida have a lot of success with this one. Currently, I have this plant on a heat mat, and I do see that it's improving. The temperatures on the heat mat are 30 degrees of Celsius. I didn't get the heat mat specifically for this plant. I got it for propagation, but I'm not using it for that at the moment, and I'm just experimenting to see if this one will grow a bit better. I received this plant in October, and it was sold to me as hoyalauterbachii. I have to admit, I made a terrible mistake of not researching the plant at all before I bought it, and I placed it in a very airy mix, and it's still in that airy mix. Every day I say that I will change that, but I can say that my excuse is I wanted to show you the mistake in the video. I don't know if that's the case. This is a terrestrial plant, so it doesn't like so much air around the roots, and it grows in alkaline soil. So you will need to add either eggshells or oyster shells, or just use some specific fertilizer, but I would definitely try to amend the soil a bit, and I will be repotting it very, very soon in a mix with more peat, with more general potting soil. I will still add perlite for good drainage, possibly some sphagnum moss, and maybe just a tiny bit of bark, but I will make sure to not go overboard with perlite and with bark, and then I will mix in some eggshells to that. And we will see how it goes, and if it will grow faster or better. So far, I cannot complain a lot about the growth. It was about this size when I received it, so all of this is new growth. And you can see we started off with some smaller leaves, and now we are just getting bigger and bigger. I'm not sure if this leaf is fully developed yet, but I would like to see this one get bigger because it's very close to the light. I would say it's about 10 centimeters away from the light. And that's the thing for this plant. It needs a lot of light, a lot of warmth, a lot of air circulating around it. I have the fan turned on currently, so it does move the air. I'm not sure if that's enough, but this plant is definitely a bit different from the rest of your Hoyas. And the way this grows in its native habitat is it climbs up a tree, and then when it reaches the top of the tree, so when it reaches the canopy, then it will start to bloom. People say that it needs that air movement in the canopy of the tree, so a lot of ventilation to bloom well, and they say it will not really bloom if the air is stale. And of course in the house, if you don't have a fan, the air doesn't move a lot. I'm not saying it's stale, that doesn't sound very good, but I would probably turn on the fan just to help this plant out. I cannot tell you that this plant will bloom in the house. I haven't heard of anyone blooming it. I know of some other Eriostemmas that are possible to bloom in the house because Christina Carlson of My Hoyas did it, but I haven't read that anyone bloomed this one, so that's a bit unfortunate. And in order for it to bloom, it needs to get very long. They say you should let it grow out as much as you can, then wrap it around the trellis to go down and then up again, and then it will bloom. So they say it needs to be at least 2 meters in height, and then it has to go down and then up, and then it will bloom. So it needs to be very long. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't really have high hopes for blooming this one. For me, it has been somewhat of a good grower. I do think it can grow a lot more. And I do hope now when it's on a heat mat and when I change the mix, which I will do, I hope that it will grow faster. They say it's best to grow this in a wide and shallow pot, as wide as you're comfortable with, and a shallow pot, that it resembles the natural conditions. I don't have many wide pots, and to be quite frank with you, they don't fit on my shelf. I don't have a lot of space. I'm not going to waste it on the plant. It is what it is. I will possibly keep the same pot, but I will change the mix. We will see how it goes. I see that Christina has her Eriostemma in a fairly smaller pot, so it's not wide or anything like that. So this one will just have to get used to that, because I don't want to waste so much space on one plant. It may sound cruel, but it is like that. I did receive it with some damage on the leaves, on the bottom of the leaves. I'm not quite sure if this is fungal or anything. It didn't spread to other leaves. It might be damage from the cold, not quite sure. It did have like 4 more leaves that arrived yellow, and they just fell off very quickly after the shipping. So it hung on to these 2 leaves, those are the older leaves, and then it pushed out this new growth that's somewhat okay. I don't intend to cut it back. I will see how long can it grow on the heat mat and what we will end up with, if it will continue to be a good grower. I wouldn't mind if it continued to grow like this, and if I could somehow wrap it around the trellis. I will probably let it grow a bit taller and then try to see if I can wrap it around, but I don't really have high hopes for the flower. Flowers are very big and very impressive to see in the picture. I believe they will be very impressive to see in person, but just don't hope for that when you get this plant. I think maybe with some other Eriostemmas you have more luck. You will have more luck, but with this one, not really. It's said that this one really needs to be outdoors in warm climate, Florida, Hawaii, and of course the native habitat. I don't even think that putting it out during summer will help, because if you get cooler nights below 20, which I do, that's not gonna cut it for this plant. It will want more than that. I also read information that the hotter it is, the better it will grow, but that it will flower at around 28 degrees of Celsius. So for it, the cooler night will be 28 or 25 degrees of Celsius, which is not cool at all. But they say it needs that change from maybe 30-ish to 25, 26, or 28. So it needs a bit of a temperature change. I'm not sure, again, I haven't flowered it, I don't hope to flower it, but I will continue to grow it for the fuzzy leaves, and because I want to see where we can get with this plant. I cannot recommend this for a beginner because it's not something that you will find in a garden center. You will have to get it from a collector. It's not expensive, but it's not cheap as well. And maybe there are some other Hoyas with pubescent leaves that will flower for you. And this one has that temperature requirement that I think will be challenging in many homes. This was Eriostemma lauterbachii, and I will see you again in our next 29 days of Hoya and 1 day of Eriostemma.